The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
No mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Well, good morning. How is everyone today? I am, aka William, and I am the host of today's World Blockchain Roundtable. And I'm talking to you from my basement. And before we go into Blockchain for Financial Freedom, episode number 268, 268 weeks of the longest running DAO-based podcast in all the world. Time out, just a second. Mom, I'm with my friends. I'm going to be online for a little bit. Can you bring down some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and some milk, please? Thank you. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyway, get your drinks, get your food, whatever. We got and get a notebook, get some pens, paper, whatever, something to write on, take notes, get a pencil, probably going to need an eraser. And remember, this is not financial advice. We're not your daddy. We're not your mamas. We're just, people on the internet talking about financial freedom with blockchain. But I'm not alone. I have two people joining me from the legacy right. In reverse alphabetical order, we have Zach. Good morning, sir.
I can finally hear you. I don't know if you were talking backstage.
What? Oh no! I backstage before it all started, I had it muted because I was going over my notes on what to say today, and now I can't find them, so I'm making it up as I go. But Zach, you are not alone. This is like A through Z. We have Andrew also.
Finally, the mountain has dew, and I've brought the drinks.
All right. Well, I got my coffee.
It's my gay lover, everybody.
Oh, they're nice. Not that there's anything wrong with it. As Seinfeld used to say.
Oh, there's everything wrong with it. It's sin.
I'm all down for physical removal, so to speak.
Oh my goodness. I'll gather the stones. Do they still stone people? I don't. Hey, anyway, I got
maybe,
my coffee.
Maybe head people.
In my, celebratory, DIN social color mug. And we want to thank everybody who's watching us live as we discuss blockchain for financial freedom.
Just so you know, they do not stone people anymore. Now they actually just take them and force them to get a transgender surgery.
And have parades. Got it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
There was a comedian that said, "I want my rainbow back." Anyway, I guess he didn't like that the rainbow was confiscated by the LGBTQ
CIA.
Yeah, something like that. Today, though, we will be talking about things like DeFi, essential.
So
elements for financial freedom.
We're going into
to talk about the shadow.
Yes, and the shadow. And Zach, what was that? Zach, I'm sorry.
We're gonna get into the probably be better if I did this. We're gonna get into the anthropology of blockchain, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. And we also have here, we'll be talking about this kind of thing: agorism, parallel societies, parallel networks, parallel systems. And we got some good questions to answer for everybody. Looks like what we have here today is we have a failure to communicate. No, that's not what we have. We have just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. I want to go over, let's see if I can find it. Last week's show was wrong answers only, and that was pretty good. It was the blockchain AI edition for wrong answers only. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to do so, because you're going to get a lot of bad information, but somewhere in there, in those answers, there's a thread of truth. It's almost cryptographic, if you will. But each host last week received a whopping 133 lot layer ownership tokens on the DAO roundtable layer, or category, if we like to call it. It's layers, like a dragon layer, because it's built on Dragon Chain. And each topic contributor also last week received 166 lot. It just so happened, who would have guessed it, that I had suggested this one months ago, and it finally got voted in. So I received an additional 166 lot their ownership token.
How much is that in American dollars?
Oh, it's American. You know what? With the equivalent is you should probably just grab your dollars and throw them in your fireplace to keep warm this winter. When you compare lot in World Blockchain Roundtable and the U.S. dollar, wheelbarrow. What's wrong? So Zach, that's my answer. I'm going to stick with it, even though that is a wrong answer. Kind of dovetailed onto blockchain AI edition wrong answer from last week. So anyway,
are we going to be as misinformed as Robbie the Fire Bernstein and his channel on YouTube? That's his misinformation specialist right there on the channel.
Well, that was
but he's gay.
Oh, well. Anyway, last week was
wrong answers only.
But this week, we're not going to do wrong answers. We're going to do right answers. But again, the lawyers tell me, and Mom upstairs, who's making my peanut butter and jelly, bring me down milk to the basement, is telling me that, this is a show that does not provide financial advice. And we, as panelists, have the right to extend, delete, change, alter our answers. We do not provide financial advice at all. So to keep, you got to do your own research. All right.
Put it in the U.S. dollar. That's good. That's good sense, right?
Something like that.
It'll never go down to zero.
No.
Hey, Mom.
Don't go to zero.
Shut up.
You just print.
Shut up. I'm out here. I'm down here doing a show. I'll leave when I fucking am ready. All right. I'll go out into the world when I want to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. By the way, every time someone mentions matter, that means I have to drink because the Din token is matter. So that's part of the thing of being the emperor of the Din Dao. You must sacrifice your liver to drink every time someone says the word matter.
Is coffee not good for your liver?
It matters most. Well, it depends on what you put in with the coffee.
Oh, I drink it black.
All right, all right.
I drink it black. Every once in a while, whiskey.
Yeah, yeah. So again, we are, let's see if we can add this to our, this is episode 268. And before we jump into any of the questions, and who knows, we might get a Satoshi Sean or a Greg, the design heretic, jump in, or Lisa.
Lisa.
Joe. I know. Actually, Joe had his update, Super Happy Dragon Lucky update, where he updates everybody on all the different projects that they're working on. He did that yesterday morning because he had meetings in another city. So
he was confusing me. I actually got the watch. Yeah. He was confusing me.
But
I thought we were going on to yesterday because he started on Wednesday.
Freaked out, right? Freaked out too.
I did tell him. I did tell him the idea though. I was trying to. Meme Asylum needs a nice, good stable coin, SSPX coin. Come on, everybody! It's stable. All you got to do is measure it by all the trads that become schismatic by going to the liturgy. Oh, they join. Yeah, you just count it by attendance. All of those who join, and that's how you make money. That's how the value goes up. You just count the attendance. See, we would make so much money with SSPX coin.
See, well, it all goes down to demand. You have to create the demand for it. The demand should have a utility, and then you add scarcity, and the value should go up. It's kind of the rule of thumb. Now, I don't know what they're doing with the dollar because people are working for it. I don't know if you call that a demand, and then they keep printing it, so it doesn't have scarcity. It just creates inflation, so the cost of goods keep going up in value and price, or not value, but up in price. But I wish we had Satoshi Sean here because he was formerly a financial advisor, and we're going to be talking about blockchain for financial freedom. And I'm sure he would add his morality minute to the conversation, as well as his wisdom, as well as his, view on blockchain and financial moments. But because he's not here, at least at this moment in time, let's just do this.
I figured out the utility for SSPX coin. It can be used to purchase confessions to be valid.
Oh, God.
And then it's measured on the blockchain for the attendance.
All right. Well, then I'm going to give you my wallet address, and you can provide your confessions to me so I can collect the coin.
We'll call it an indulgence to the emperor.
That's right. And if Greg were here, I know exactly what he'd say. It would be something beyond our comprehension, but we would have this feel. Absolutely. So Greg, we miss you, buddy. Hope you can join us.
Call out. Come join us.
All right. Let's jump into the first question. Are you good with that, gentlemen?
Sure.
All right. I'm refreshing. Look at that. See.
I didn't see it. Do it again.
No. Once enough. There is your pop. There it goes. All right.
Did you do it again? I missed it again. Damn it.
Topic for episode, stop blinking. Topic for this episode is blockchain for financial freedom. Nominated by me again. Ho, ho, ho. Get me some more law. All right. And the first question is from Dayrox.
See, that's not fair. I think because Dayrox is the first question, he should get all the lot for the topic.
Really? Well, for that to happen, Zach, that is possible. That is very possible. Remember, this is a DAO. So if you want the rewards to be changed up and go to the first question that gets the most votes, you know, and like Dayrox here, he got 6,800 votes in lot, so or in NRG, which is essentially Matter. There you go. That's pretty impressive right there. So, you know, if you wanted all the lot from the show just to go to him because he answered the first question that got the most votes, it can be done. It just requires a proposal and a vote.
Oh, I don't want all the lot from the show. I want we need the lot for we're the hosts. I want all the lot for the topic.
Greed is good, Zach. Greed is good.
Gluttony.
All right. Well, let's go into there.
Are you drinking coffee down there?
Me?
No, it's Mountain Dew.
Oh. In a coffee cup? Hillbilly coffee.
It's my Donkey Kong cup.
All right. The great Dayrox asks. Oh, this is long, gentlemen. Uh-oh. I think he put some context to the question after he asks it. What kind of freedom, in quotation marks, will blockchain bring to Europeans? Oof. You got it rough over there. All in law, cash capped at 10,000 euro, crypto ID above 1,000, privacy coins banned from in 2027. Next on the list, VPN bans, chat controls. It seems that the adoption of blockchain will only strengthen the government's control over society. So the question he asks, what kind of freedom will blockchain bring Europeans? Oh my.
Oh,
all
snap.
right, gentlemen, you gotta help me with this because there's a lot that's going on. He is absolutely correct. There is legislation that to ban VPNs. It's getting ready to be started and rolled out. KYC to access the internet for the safety of the children is happening. So obviously that means that they know what sites you're going to and if you're participating in blockchain with a wallet. And they already have limitations like it's capped at $10,000 that, you know, moving, you know, on ramps and off ramps from crypto. And obviously an ID would be required and
getting close, Katie.
Above over $1,000 or 1,000 euros. So they have some very stringent regulations regarding the usage of, you know, cryptocurrencies, crypto as a whole, any kind of blockchain technology, especially that has tokens or coins. So his question is definitely a valid one. What kind of freedom will blockchain bring to Europeans? And they want to block and ban privacy coins. Who wants to go first? Please, somebody.
The test run is if they can, and they probably will, get a VPN passed, especially through the EU, because then all the EU nations will follow suit independently, and then Britain. But VPN, if they can actually get the VPN bill passed into law over there in Europe, that's the test run to ensure that the privacy coin ban actually does go in tandem with that. And so with that, it makes it a lot harder to be able to utilize a more centralized funding of systems, say with blockchain, and it makes it a lot easier for a more controlled apparatus of centralized blockchain tokens, say stable coin apparatus mixed with the Bitcoin. I mean, and that's what you'll have to use. The KYC is already there. I mean, that's here. That's here as well, just on a smaller scale. But that's basically the test run. Yeah. So what kind of freedom will blockchain bring to Europeans? Absolutely zero, unless you are a complete outlaw.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you agree with that statement? Blockchain will bring zero freedom to Europeans?
I mean, that particular statement, I think this is all kind of being mixed into the cake before it gets baked, so to speak. You know, it's baked into the final outcome. They've been working on stuff like this for a long time, and this is kind of a late in the stage of the European project, if you want to call it that. Historically, we all know Europe was kingdoms and stuff like that, and democracy or legal elections and stuff like that. This is something that's been tried to push for the last couple hundred years, but it's just not. It's not as successful as I thought it was gonna be. It's burning out. So, as for the question particularly, I don't think freedom in the sense that people are hoping for. You're not going to. It's going to be very difficult for them to reframe the situation, considering the post-Soviet Union and everything, because they're relying on rules of law, and they're falling back into their ideas of a kingdom of monarchy and stuff like that. But everyone who's just objective about it realizes that law always fails. Legal code always fails because there's inherent corruption in its delivery. And if it's not corrupt, then the censorship directly through control of people's actions.
About this comment, they'll never be able to actually get rid of the VPN. What they'll do is they'll overregulate it to make it harder for normal people to be able to objectify. It'll be more controlled, sort of like how it already is, because like your data really isn't protected with most VPNs. It's more of a marketing scheme, but it'll make it harder for more decentralized aspects. So I don't know. You'll still have a VPN, but it'll be in the system. Sure. So they'll be able to track you even more.
A VPN helps to obfuscate your location and your IP address. So, and then the question is, does the VPN provider, maintaining logs on who's accessing their system and from where, and what IP address they're assigning them, or to show where they're coming from. So it becomes it's kind of part of the cat and mouse game, if you will. It's part of that
reframing that I was talking about. It's just attempting to shuffle the deck.
Right.
Yeah. Like the VPN apparatus, like you'll still have your VPN, but at the same time, it'll be the VPN company will be forced to give up all their data that they have on you, which they have. They're going to have to contend towards the law.
Right. Well, there's a lot to unpack here in Darroch's question, and I'm gonna push back on your comment, Zach, that Europeans are going to have zero freedom.
They already don't.
Banning the VPNs is something that's being discussed now in the EU, and it's being discussed here in the US. It just hasn't percolated to the top of most media, shall we say. But I'm going to argue that when a government forces more and more regulations, eventually, in an attempt for more control, in the long term, the citizens are going to revolt in a way that they're just not going to adhere to those regulations. They will automatically, almost like herding cattle, will move with the flock or the herd towards items that are prohibited, because that provides them either more financial freedom, more income, or more privacy. And it kind of reminds me of prohibition times in the U.S. when they banned alcohol. People still consumed alcohol. People still made alcohol. Sure, yeah, there was alcohol that was made in someone's bathtub and killed people, unfortunately, because
I think those were government agents.
Maybe, possibly. But history shows that a lot of regulation and heavy regulation will ultimately lead to the societies move to other things, other technologies, and create more parallel systems and black markets. They will. And that would be, I guess, my hope. Mixers will still be available. Zero knowledge tools will still be available. There'll be offshore is still available. And remember, blockchain is to eliminate third parties so that peer-to-peer transactions still happen and that they're borderless. There is no border when you're talking about nodes that are set up around the world. Let's just, we all probably agree here on blockchain being hijacked, but it is still the largest, blockchain out there. And in one regard, you could say it's the most secure because it is the largest. It would take a lot of money to buy a lot of miners and a lot of energy to try to hijack it, as if it moves also to a mesh communication system. We'll get into that later, but I guess my other point here is, from a financial freedom perspective, it also has to do with, the money printers going burr. We have that here in the U.S. with them printing too many dollars, but so does the EU, and so do most nations in the world. And if you have done your research, and if you choose Bitcoin or whatever, it might have a better scarcity than your currency that you have maybe in the EU, and might hold its value better than your EU dollars or your US dollars. And it's for you to do your own research, but that is possible. So part of that financial freedom is just getting ahead of that, getting ahead of the inflation bug, the inflation that nation states are, how they're using it to steal from us and steal from our values that were within our wallets. You could use blockchain and invest in in Bitcoin gold or whatever. It's it's kind of like or the value of gold with a blockchain, and you can do that with small dollar amounts and hedge yourself against the inflation levels that you see with your own home currency. So that provides you self-custody. It provides you some inflation protection. It's not guaranteed, but it certainly is borderless, and it's censorship resistant. These are amazing tools without third parties, so we don't need to go through a bank or get the blessing of a government. And so I think those parallel systems will rise up more and more as government regulations, become more strict. We saw it with Romania. Romania it faltered because alternative currencies that were running in the black market became larger and held their value better than the Romanian government dollars or currency had. So think of it offshore. And DeFi, here you go. DeFi is still in its infancy, I would say. And so decentralized finance is still there's still other opportunities out there that are growing. And I think we'll have you will still have that ability even in the EU and other parts of the world to take advantage of and to invest in at your own risk, at your own peril. Do your own research, but I think there are better opportunities that way. Even tokenized, land, tokenized real estate, tokenized precious metals is what, like I was talking about, and privacy coins. Yeah, they say, well, we're going to ban that. Well, how are you going to ban it, really? And then when you start jumping into mesh networks, you're not going through an ISP, an internet service provider. You're not touching their internet anymore. You're going through a mesh network. Transactions can happen on a mesh network.
That's honestly, I think this is what's, at the very beginning of Bitcoin, there's, you have to shut down the internet. I think they're trying to push to shut down the internet. And that's, they're calling the internet's bluff, thinking, they won't do anything because we're in control. We're the government.
Mm-hmm.
People have
the flock needs
to. They can't go back to. You can't go back to how it was with the 90s. Even the 80s, because there was still some network connection in the 80s. You can't go back to the way things were. People aren't going to just sit there and sit on their hands. Well, it's because it's what the law says. No. People have become accustomed to this.
Not have the internet. It's probably a good thing not to have the internet, honestly. But the flock needs a shepherd, and in this instance, people are being shepherded by the false shepherd. So manipulation is the key, and placating individuals into thinking like safety, like take the safety, like what is KYC? Well, KYC, looking on the outside in, sounds like it's a great safety mechanism, and we got to protect the safety of the children and predators on the internet, which is kind of laughable considering that you have Muslim rapists, literally. I mean, because it's part of their theology, raping kids in Europe right now, quite literally. But at the same time, like that's how you gain access to the flock by persuading them into a certain situation. So it's not hard to get people to foresee that, even though technically speaking, you really can't regulate privacy coins and you can't in the blockchain and tokenization, but you can manipulate people onto the safety apparatus to not want to use it. So that's the issue, is where do we take the flock and shepherd them into the right direction rather than shepherding to the wrong direction of manipulation. Yeah.
Right. Simon Dixon talks about this at a great extent, deep dives almost daily. So if you're interested in, and he is a Bitcoin OG long before the hijack, and he's essentially talking about taking Bitcoin back away from the hijackers. So I encourage people to take a look at Simon Dixon's podcasts as he discusses global finance, the whole world, the Iran war, the Russian-Ukraine war, the EU, the US, the central banks, everything. And he, with his background, his knowledge, his expertise, he gives you some really good insight about Bitcoin and its potential role towards financial freedom. And I guess we really haven't defined financial freedom in this podcast, but because there's different ways you can look at it. You can look at it on the individual level, or you can look at it as a society level of being a financial freedom is stepping away from your home currency, in my case would be the US dollar, and start transacting in other things, or investing.
My case would be the Mexican peso.
Rather than storing dollars in the savings account and watch inflation, relegate it to almost zero.
I honestly think we should start using the Guatemalan queso. I think I said that right. Use the queso.
The queso, the cheese, the Guatemalan cheese queso.
No, not the queso, but yeah, it's very close to that. I forget what it's called. Or queso.
Queso.
Yeah, I don't know. Quesala. I don't know. I forget. It's probably not even that anymore. It's probably literally the dollar. Guatemala's poor.
Yeah,
they just use the dollar.
And for this question, and is why I chose this hat today. I don't know if you can see it, but it's my belief in algorithms and parallel networks, parallel systems. So look that up, if you will, as potential. It's counter economics, and using counter economics so that you're not feeding the regulation beasts out there in the world. All right. I hope, Derox, if you're watching, I hope we've answered your question. And,
nope.
Giving you some hope out there. All right.
We answered this question with a question.
What is financial freedom, and how does blockchain help achieve it? Whoops.
Can't see past Katie. So
good questions inform, great questions transform.
If you move her comment, I can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
So what is financial freedom, and how does blockchain help achieve it? We kind of already touched on this, but there's all kinds of ways. If you define financial freedom from just separating yourself from your home currency and start transacting something else that holds its value and doesn't have money printer go burr, and you're canceling out that inflation, that is part of that financial freedom pursuit. Financial freedom, others might define it as having enough money and various forms of income that you can live comfortably and maybe jet set around the world and travel, or not have to work and do that daily grind. That's how some people might define
or be able to work, but work on your level, work on at your pace. So you can put in, instead of a grind, you can put in 7 days a week if you like, and then or you can put in 3 days a week, whatever, right? So and then still have the time to take off to go do the things that you love to do, spend time with your family, go travel, whatnot. So like financial freedom is something to where you dictate how you are, how liquid your income can be, and where your cash flow comes from. So like blockchain has that established identity to be able to do. You can pull from different, you can use tokenization, you can pull into different facets of industry within the blockchain. You can get into real estate, get into land settlement. You can get into different industries of different markets and sales, etc. You can get into podcasting. You can get into even social media for that matter. Like you can get into even advertising. It's like you can get into certain trades. So like you have the ability to use to figure out different avenues of revenue building so that you're not strenuously working for effectively just to get by. And so, and I think that's the goal of everybody when it comes to financial freedom is it's not that we don't want to stop working. We're human beings. We are actually innate in how we're built. It's like in our DNA, we have to work. I mean, it gives us a purpose, but how do we present ourselves on the standard of our purpose and building and working without giving up our soul for absolutely little gain and ground.
Right. Well said.
Let me illustrate an example of what financial freedom could possibly be.
Okay.
We all have heard the term "one man's trash is another man's treasure," right? Have you ever known someone who will sit there and just constantly monologue to you about how that will never work, this will never work, it'll be just a total failure of a project? Look at the pet rock. What kind of wild ass idea is the pet rock?
Oh, I do.
Someone thought, I'm going to get a box, I'm going to put a rock in it, and I'm going to sell it, and people are going to buy it.
But I can just go outside and go get a pet rock.
I realize that.
But it's not the same. It's not the same.
Let me finish. Financial freedom is the ability to find an innovation like the pet rock. Someone tell you that will never work. That's the stupidest idea ever. Take it, find people who will trade you for it, and make it a legitimate working currency. That is financial freedom from my perspective.
Speaking of that, if anybody wants some DVDs, yeah, $3 a pop. I'll sell you some DVDs. DM me.
Okay.
I got about 500 of them.
What currencies do you accept?
PayPal and Bitcoin Cash.
Okay, cool.
Preferably the PayPal, just to make it easier, and then I could just buy the Bitcoin Cash.
Okay, all right. Well,
and then buy Dragon with the Bitcoin Cash.
You know, I think to piggyback on what you're saying, Andrew, about the idea of entrepreneurialism and, you know, using capital markets to come up with an idea and sell a rock to people and kids that wanted a pet rock. I remember those days. And, you know, that's a good example of a way to obtain your financial freedom. And like Zach said, it's being able to buy your time to be able to spend your time how you want to spend your time, how you want to spend your day. And sometimes your passion can lead to income, and doing something that you are passionate about can earn you an income. And it's something that you enjoy doing. It doesn't feel like work. And that's part of financial freedom, or a part of the definition of financial freedom as well.
Quick plug.
Yes.
Speaking of passion and income, go to that link that's right there underneath my name, everybody.
Okay.
Go on, William.
Thank you. Anyway, the idea and the concept of how blockchain can help achieve this is also in the tokenization of assets. And in this world, what we're facing with AI, which is very centralized, and AI merging with robotics or automation, taking over more and more of our jobs, we're going to look for ways to be able to have alternative sources of income and not rely on a centralized government, where we're already complaining about the centralized government and its regulations. So you want to try to work on alternative income streams so that you don't fall into the UBI trap and only universal basic income that's provided to you from the government. Because then the government can turn that spigot on or turn that spigot off at their whim, based off of what they think and how you should act as a quote unquote citizen within their jurisdiction. So I strongly suggest you look at alternative income streams and even micro purchasing assets in tokenization assets. Again, do your own research, but they are out there. And there are, you know, that entrepreneurial spirit of the tokenized pet rock. Well, maybe tokenized real estate. Maybe a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, that everyone has a vote on how money should be spent. And for the first time in our lifetime, and the first time in humanity's lifetime, we have the ability to transact globally without a bank involved. We can transact globally without a government involved, borderless. So the sky's the limit. Your playing field, your income streams are now global. They can, because blockchain has provided this opportunity for you to go out there and sell something, sell your pet rock, if you will. We'll use that as the widget. Sell your pet rock globally. Sell your ideas, your writings, your authorship, your beliefs. You can sell those now globally and earn an income with various cryptocurrencies that have scarcity, that don't fall prey to maybe the inflation racket that government and central banks, you know, how they steal from us. So I think there are golden opportunities out there. Now, the focus has been all on AI now, and blockchain has now kind of faded to the background. But the technology is still there. It's still we're still waiting for that killer app. And that killer app could exist right now, just like when Bitcoin first surfaced to the world. It's up to you to go out there and find it. and maybe invest in a little bit. And remember when Bitcoin was under $1, and now people are frustrated because it's trading at barely $70,000. So
just
it's out there.
I'd like to relay a poll. Leave a comment, everybody. Would you like me to film myself playing Red Dead Redemption 2 as Arthur, but create my own story for YouTube content just around the world? Would you watch that? If I script something and do something, it'll probably just be me. And I'll use all the NPCs to create something.
Nice. There you go. You've got the invite out.
I haven't played that game in a while. I like to play it, but I like to get back into playing it, but I want to create something. I want to do something that actually makes it fun and whimsical and story driven.
Yes.
Like and subscribe, everybody, and leave a comment if you want that to happen.
Well, there you go. Yes, tokenization of hard assets is what I was just talking about.
Yeah, but that is the truth. Like there's so much that you can do. Like just think of it. I'm gonna go to Paul and Acts. Like let's go to the Bible. Like what was Paul when he was doing his missionary work and evangelizing the gospel? He would go into towns, Ephesus, Corinth, Athens, and he would start up shop as a tent maker. While that was his means of capital building, so he could survive. He would be a tent maker, and he would tokenize those assets to continue to go about throughout the whole of the known world to evangelize the gospel, to go from city to city state to city state. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about blockchain and tokenization. Tokenize some sort of asset you have so that you can expand upon that asset to another means to the world. Be a tent maker. Or in Andrew's case, a Mountain Dew drinker.
There you go. Mountain Dew is not sponsoring the show. We have a question.
It's a casual enjoyer.
Blockchain can still be hacked. The core network might be mostly secure, but hackers will always discover vulnerabilities in application codes.
Blockchain can't be hacked, but the networks that phase through that are used, especially in centralized holding, like wallets, that's why it's best to have a hard wallet to come off the network or something. If it's not your keys, it's not your assets, right? That quarter spiel. So blockchain itself can't be hacked, but to the point, you said core network, Katie. So the core networks that are used within the blockchain systems, that core network being the wallet apparatus, like Coinbase, all these wallet apparatuses like Coinbase and Binance, and these can be hacked. And
they're hacking your access. That's what they're hacking. They're hacking your private keys. Hacking and finding and discovering what your password is. But the blockchain itself was not hacked. For example, Bitcoin. Bitcoin has wallets that attach to it and determine where and who, shows who has how many coins in each wallet. But the wallet itself might be hacked. But the blockchain protocol or network itself has never been hacked. That's the difference. So it's just like protecting your password on your devices, right? And protecting. So that is where you have to be vigilant and protect. And the other thing that's beautiful is you can take your assets on the blockchain and disperse them into multiple wallets, into multiple passwords, multiple hardware devices, so that if they get one, they're not getting everything. Which includes this if you actually take care of it. Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you can still use your cell phone, but the means should be you should probably carry yourself away from that, but you can still use this so long as you protect your own phone.
the nature of the ecosystem that cryptocurrency and stuff like that is involved in is it's open source, right? You can go, it's like going to the library, you borrow a book, you see what's in the book, you can reverse engineer how the book was written, and you can look for loopholes and stuff like that.
Right.
That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be bugs. That's the whole point, is that you look for bugs. When Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, ABC, before it became Cash Node, had were involved with the Civil War and the fork. Right then and there, when the fork actually happened, one of the developers from ABC had seen that there was an inflation bug in Bitcoin Core, and instead of exploiting it, he went and said, "Hey, you got this issue. You might want to fix it." And they were making fun of Bitcoin Cash, ABC, and stuff like that. And they just kind of let it go for a little while after that because they got called out for it.
Sure.
This ecosystem, there are people who, like, I was talking about Bitcoin Cash, ABC. There are private companies involved in this ecosystem that go and pay professional software review teams to look for bugs, and this costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this sort of thing.
Yeah,
not every project does that. Yeah,
right.
Not every project, but that's the quality of the ecosystem that we're in. There are people who are so passionate about this that they will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to make sure that the system is stable. And it's not just one company. There's other companies that do this too. It's not just one team of one business or whatever. This is a huge ecosystem with a whole bunch of projects, and it's really kind of flying by the seat of your pants sometimes, because you don't, unless you're specialized in one particular area, you're not going to be able to fully comprehend what's going on in the bigger picture.
Right.
So that is something you had to keep in consideration.
Bitcoin's right now, its protocol is worth $1.7 trillion. Ethereum is second place with 209 billion. So there you have it. I think that kind of give you an idea that we're talking about large numbers. And if the blockchains were hacked, those would go to almost to zero in their valuations. So
well, you gotta remember, Bitcoin Core, right? The OG Bitcoin, quote unquote. They don't want to update the code as fast as and be as flexible as these other teams, which is in its own way like a safety mechanism, so that they don't lose total control of the market cap that they have. But at the same time, if something really innovative comes by, it's going to take them a long time to adjust to that.
Right.
And so, like Bitcoin Cash, ABC, they're this ABC. I'm sorry, that was before the other fork. Cash Node, they're really constantly working towards new goals and projects and stuff like that. And I don't have the website up, but you can look it up. Coin.dance, all the different implementations and software innovations that they're working towards, and not just for ABC, and not just for Cash Nodes, Bitcoin Core, and Satoshi's vision, and all that. It's all listed there.
Litecoin, Digibyte, there's so many blocks. Yeah. Which, going back to our next question, I'm also an advocate for precious metals, and I don't see any problem holding gold and silver and crypto. I think it's just a diversification of your investment, or another way to hedge against inflation for your dollars, rather than say putting it and storing it in a bank savings account so it's going to dwindle, or the stock market, and hoping that your stock, your company, isn't going to have some kind of devaluation from God knows what. So possession in your own, owning your own private keys, which again, like think of it as your password to access your crypto, is holding. Just like you don't let, putting your dollars in a savings account is your dollars in the bank. It's at the bank. Well, do you really trust your bank? Do you really trust the government from not, confiscating those dollars? And do you trust the government for not devaluating those dollars versus holding it in gold, silver, copper, platinum, whatever, in cryptos? So, but anyway, how can blockchain help normal people own a share of a big asset like real estate, art, or business through tokenization and DAOs? I'll just be real quick on this. I have talked about this on the show before, is that imagine an Airbnb home or a home that's for sale, and you get people from all over the world to put in micro investment into a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, where everyone has a vote based off how much they're investing. And you as a group go out and create an entity and then buy the property and turn it into an Airbnb. That entity is a legal entity that's registered in that country to be able to own a piece of property. But that entity is controlled by a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that people around the world have invested in. So if you live in wherever, Kathmandu, but you want to invest in US real estate, here is the way it could be done. Even at the micro level at $5, $10, $20, $1,000, towards a property and asset, and receive a micro, dividend monthly from that based off of the DAO, based off of everyone's votes. So it's very possible, it's very probable. We have that technology today. There's what I have to say about that. Who's next? Who wants to go take this one next?
Well, I think, originally, and it's still the goal, cryptocurrency is supposed to be a parallel economy. The, legal infrastructure that we live under currently is trying to, cross-pollinate or absorb part of the ecosystem into, the legacy legal system that we live under, by having like cities and states and countries buy and hold cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin Core. And I mean, if you go to PayPal, it's always kind of the same list. It's Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Ethereum, and a whole bunch of Ethereum Classic, and just it's a variety of. But really, this is the first wave, and so the longer this kind of goes in and integrates, the more relative and easier it's going to be for people. Just like if you go to Walmart or you go to Best Buy or whatever, you would pay with crypto instead of paying with cash.
Right.
And so if you was to buy, art, that might eventually be the point where you're actually using crypto that you earned at your job to buy art.
Right.
Because they're trying to cross-pollinate a system really not designed for this sort of ecosystem.
Right. Zach, what say you about tokenization of hard assets? Or investing in real estate, art through tokenization and using a DAO?
I'm reading. I would say that again, it goes back to the financial freedom aspect of what you can do in order to alleviate certain pain in yourself, to outstretch yourself into different realms, to give you different niches and of different facets of different industries, so that you don't have to necessarily work as hard for next to nothing without having a choice to do so. If you want to work as hard as you want and grind, that's your choice. But it allows you that deviation from that hard grind to where you can take a step back and realize I don't have to work as hard as I once did just to get a paycheck or to ensure that I have a I have a stable salary that's going into my bank account every week. I can actually extend off and gain liquid cash assets to be able to live and provide and to save and to extend myself into the capacity to be more than just a cog in the system. So to tokenize certain hard assets like real estate, art, and get into different business apparatuses, I mean, it allows for you to have the freedom to extend yourself so you're not focusing on one thing and being stuck. And I think that's where people have an issue, is they get stuck, but they don't know how to branch away from the stuck.
Well, so true. Another thing you have to think about is this. Like I was saying before, it's kind of integrating. With that integration comes more financial stability, which means that people aren't going to be, in such a difficult position where they have to constantly work. So they actually have more free time and realize how much got screwed by, the way things developed, the mismanagement of the economy by states. So
let's not go into that realm. I mean, the realm is you understand that you now have free time, and so that free time is that ability to have more creativity in yourself. And so then with that creativity, that extra creative time that you now have, you can now branch onto something to create something new, something more innovative. So then you can now start building to provide for more established and innovative invention in our society today, rather than being stuck in that grind mentality of being a cog. So now you have the time, but what are you going to do with that time? Because I don't think many people are going to understand that you can't just waste time. It's one thing to kind of have a lazy day, have a vacation day, you have a mental health day, whatever you want to call it, right? Have a family day. You have that relaxation, but then you have the extra time that you can build upon, so you can use that time for a creative asset. So you can actually proceed forth towards making something happen and bettering your own life and bettering your family's life and actually finding purpose. That's really all it is. It's about finding purpose. I mean, if we just niche it down to just you'll have time, then I could go I could go live off the system and be a welfarist and have all the time in the world. But what am I actually doing? Sitting on my ass playing Red Dead. I love Red Dead too, Katie. But I'm sitting on my ass, literally just playing Red Dead and making a monthly check, and forced to live forced to be enslaved by the chains of the system that provides for me. So now I have all the time in the world, but I'm not doing anything with that time. So what are you going to do with the time that you now have extra from being able to step away from the grind? That's where the tokenization of hard assets can come, and what blockchain can help us do.
I'm gonna just show real quick, just as an example. I'm not endorsing any of these, okay? But for example, Pax Gold, it's priced at the price. It's tokenized gold. They hold gold as an asset, and you can buy small increments of gold that's tokenized as Pax Gold, and you see that the price is 4,118.78. You refresh. 4,117. Here's the current price of gold, 4,139. Of course, that was a few minutes ago. Whatever. Here's another one. Hit refresh. This is Tether Gold.
I would say the problem with any type of tokenization backed by like gold, like it's still like the asset that you're holding, but do you actually hold the gold? I would prefer to have the actual gold.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, Zach. But if someone wants to invest in gold and they only got $10 extra per week, how do they buy gold? $10 worth of gold? It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And so this is a way that you can gradually work your way up to that. or silver or something of that nature. That's kind of what I was trying to add. But or what if you're going to travel, or what if you're going to expatriate yourself into another country, but you can't really take that gold or silver with you? You know, you could tokenize it or buy it, sell it, and buy it as a token, travel to your destination, and then go back and cash it out into actual gold or silver at the new location. So this is just another way of traveling. Anyway, a short example of that. All right, next question. We only got 2 more here. We'll try to go quick, and then we'll move on to current events. How can blockchain help people in countries with unstable currencies or capital controls? And here you have an AI in front of the border fence, AI drone in front of the border fence. How can blockchain help people in countries with unstable currencies or capital controls? We kind of already touched on this, but capital controls is that a country wants you to stay within their border and stay within their border with your capital or your investments. They don't want you to move your investments offshore. They want to keep it onshore, because they don't, it's kind of like that, you know, when the smart leave the country, it leaves a vacuum. They're the ones who were the brilliance, the genius in the country, and they left the country, and the country then, you know, suffers. Well, the same goes for assets, and so sometimes they try to keep you here, keep you locked into within a border, and keep your assets within a border as well. Example of the Chinese, they don't want Chinese to invest in dollars or U.S. assets and live in China. They want to keep them investing within China with all their issues that they have, like overbuilt real estate. They'd rather keep capital control, keep that capital in their home country, in China, just as an example. So the question is that how can blockchain help those people? Well, we talked about various assets that are on a blockchain, like gold has been listed as an asset, as tokenized on a blockchain. And if you can't buy gold at your location or a small fraction of it, you know, these might be alternatives for you to research. As well as, you know, you live in an unstable country. I'd almost call the U.S. that, in that we've got so much debt, and the devaluation of our own dollar, devaluation of our dollar abroad as well. Well, you know, what can you invest in locally, or what can you do to make sure that you have a better alternative than your home currency that seems to be plummeting in its value and in its buying power? Well, I would argue that there are crypto assets that would serve you well in those situations. What say you, gentlemen?
I'm gonna pick apart Katie's comment here. She says she doesn't trust it, as in technology. You shouldn't put faith in technology. I agree. I mean, and yeah, you shouldn't put faith in technology at all. Technology is a tool. And so, to go back to the question,
your car is technology, your light switch is technology.
Yep. So yeah, and you shouldn't trust it, but you should trust yourself and what technologies you pick and choose to use because you need it, and how those technologies help us advance to be able to do things better, easier, transport, work, etc. I mean, etc. Right? So the fact is like with blockchain, it pulls us into an adaptation to use the technology that we have to actually be able to branch forward in our own life. So we should be able to, if we don't put our faith in the technology, but what we do is we put our trust in ourselves and how we're going to articulate the use of that technology. Right. For the benefit of ourselves and society and the world.
Right. There are people that will never jump into a robo-taxi that doesn't have a driver. It's all driverless in the city. I get that. There are, you know, people that don't want to use AI for whatever various reasons. Maybe they're political, or maybe they're, for religious reasons, they don't want to use AI. There's all kinds of, we have that freedom of choice to use or not use, to invest in or not invest in various technologies. It's all a matter of assessing your personal risk, assessing what you feel comfortable with investing in, or this is, like you said, it is a tool, and it's, in many cases, it's neutral. Sadly, that it's a tool that some people use to scam others with.
Like Profane Schoolboy 74. Welcome, buddy. You little AI bot.
How about rug pulls? Trump coin, where it has been devalued because somebody sold or took profits at the top and left you as a bag holder. But just as an example, because they have really no utility. So anyway, this is new. Blockchain is new. Electricity's been around for over 100 years now in people's homes. So it's worth adopting. Andrew,
to allow me to answer the question, though, the question was to utilize blockchain for people to get out of their shithole countries, right? Basically.
Well, yeah, to hedge.
Yeah. To be able to hedge on the negative.
Or help people in countries with unstable currencies.
That's utilizing technology, not putting your faith into the technology itself, but that's trusting that you have an option to hedge against the instability that many currencies that aren't really backed by anything but the confidence of your government and its GDP and its economic measurement, which is bullshit, in order to be able to have a cushion and to get out if you need to get out of either the system or even the country. So, and expatriate. So,
right.
And I'll turn over the mic to Andrew, where he's probably going to go into some nomad capitalist bullshit.
Well, not particularly, but I mean, I could, I guess, eventually. The thing I think of is kind of fall back to the kind of the answer I had before. Is it one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be ahead of the game with whatever you're gonna try to, get your hands on when it comes to a project. Mm-hmm.
To cut you off, I'm gonna ask you this. I want you to add this into your response too. So, should I choose Malaysia or the Canary Islands? Go.
Singapore, baby. Anyways, I mean, if you're trying to, get ahead of capital controls, like I said, one man's trash is another man's treasure. You want to be in an environment where they don't care what you're holding, because it's not in their purview and their perspective of what to try to control. And eventually, the market is gonna turn in your favor if you've made. Because this is a prediction, right? It's prediction markets, effectively. If you've made the right determination, the market's going to turn in your favor, and you're going to be ahead of the game, and you'll be able to, get out with what you've been holding before they say, "Oh, well, we got to crack down and regulate on this," because it's always crack down and regulate. It's them trying to, make the population like them by saying we're securing this and make sure no one's, getting in abusing your rights.
Right.
Effectively.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is I need to just go pitch the tent outside the walls of St. Peter's Square, because I can walk in every day. I can just go from Vatican to Italy every single day. So what I need to do is just pitch a tent outside the walls in Rome, because Rome doesn't give a fuck, because it's Italy and they're all sworn by Muslims anyways anymore. Liberalism. So I just pitch a tent, live in Rome, right outside the walls, and then I can just walk in every morning and just pray and go to mass and
as long as you can pay your way. Hey, as long as you can pay your way for
it's a prediction market. If you're successful, the more power to you, Zach.
Yes.
Since it's Rome. That's what I was saying. I can live in a tent outside the walls in Rome, and then I can pickpocket tourists.
No.
He's just being dramatic.
I know.
Rome is actually one of the pickpocket capitals of the world.
Go, Zach, go. Now, I get there's DeFi, decentralized finance opportunities too. So for borrowing, lending, saving.
I'll just sleep in the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, if they let you.
They will.
But remember too that there's crypto provides that borderless transfer of income opportunities. So I just want people to think in a global perspective and global opportunities rather than just local, and that's what blockchain can provide you. We really do need to move on, unless somebody else would like to mention anything else. I'll say that inflation is a tax. We hate taxes. Most people do. Well, just remember that most inflation is artificial. It's a tax. It's designed that way based off of money printing.
I would say, I don't think we hate tax as much as we hate the utilization of what taxation has become. Whereas when it's predatory in stealing from your worth as an individual and as a worker and as a creator and as a producer, and they're stealing from your income base, that's where we hate tax. But when taxation is used in a correct stance, I'm using that, where you actually have the basis of where people are not being robbed of their dignity through their income, then
time out. When it's used in the correct stance, taxation, I'm not understanding you. You just called it theft and stealing, but then you called it using in a correct stance. When is taxation correct? When is taxation pious? When is taxation not sin?
Taxation is taxation is an evil that we must contend with on a world that we're just sojourners on.
No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't have to contend with that.
Because even on a smaller scale, you have to fund how you're going to build your structures, your infrastructure. Even if you're in a community, you're all boosting into that community together anyways. That's a form of taxing. You're taxing each other. So there is a voluntary stance within society.
That's what
within a society. So the fact is when you're in the parameters of the positive law or the earthly nature of how authority is structured, God bestows authority. God grants authority in the earthly fashion. So when authority is aligned of the will of humanity is aligned with the will of God, then things will be more institutionalized through the standard of the structure of how we are to run our society in a more perfect fashion. Not going to be perfect, but a more perfect fashion. And so taxation up on somebody's worth as, say, a worker, as a producer, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, as a whatever, your income, that is protectionist and that is mafioso and that is theft. And just like inflation is theft because it's another form of usury. So you're basically you're taxing off of by providing off of the loan that is being provided, where the money is being spent from out of nothing because it's being created newly, but then the loan has to be paid back, but that loan is paid back off of interest, and that's usury. So when I say that taxation can be righted, I would say on a consumption base pertain towards the social structures of the society, that people voluntarily compromise to build their actual community. So
don't tax me on the property I already own. tax me on my consumption that I choose to consume, is what you're saying. And I can I can go with that, because then it becomes voluntary. If I want to buy vegetables at my, from my neighbor, or buy vegetables at the whatever, farmer's market, and I transact with them in crypto, then great. Then there is no third party involved in that transaction. I'm giving you this much crypto, and you're giving me these tomatoes or these eggs or whatever. Perfect. Now, if I choose that I don't like his tomatoes that he has or she has provided at the farmer's market, they're almost rotten, they don't have any shelf life or something, and I then choose to go to the grocery store and pay a sales tax on them or something of that nature, then okay, fine. That was voluntary. But taxing my income, taxing my property, taxing me on inheritance, taxing me on my gasoline for my vehicle, taxing me. Well, okay, well, then you say, well, that's a consumption tax. That's not voluntary. You could ride your bike. Okay, well, maybe so. But I guess that's kind of goes where maybe I just wanted to put that out there. And it's funny because guess what their next question is?
Well, there's something called just price as well. So like just price, the aspect of a just price principle, and people would get scared of this and say, well, no, that's price controls. It's like, no, the idea of a just price and the realist standard is to ensure that to incentivize that competition does not overscale itself to rip off consumers and rip off their customer. So to have a midpoint that people can compete with while simultaneously not ripping the person off that's your consumer. So I mean, there has to be a standard when it comes to government and taxation with just price and the consumption of that, and there has to be a standard upon the aspect of just price when it comes to the competitive market of different business owners and producers with their clientele.
Yep. If you don't want to use dead president money, then there's other alternatives. So here you go. America is a corpse being consumed by maggots. Liberals are rooting for the maggots. Conservatives are rooting for the corpse. And anarchists are trying to point out that they are trying to save a corpse. Boy, that's a blasphemy. So our question is, how can agorist or anarchist principles use blockchain to build counter economics and a voluntary society? That's where I was talking about, Zach. We're moving right into the voluntary.
I guess I'll answer first, so I can kind of respond to what you guys were saying before. Really, this is all about reframing the way money is spent, and taxes are in their own way of a way of proving loyalty to the system. But because the more you interact with it, the more integrated you become, and it's like you see it in nature. There's the school of fish, and there's a wolf pack, and all this sort of thing. It's loyalty. It's there's a certain number that survive no matter what, and it's throughout history that you can see this. Are they loyal to us? Well, let's just double check. This kind of goes back to what I was thinking during the intro. It's kind of the intros. He had the thing from JFK, and then he go to Satoshi Nakamoto. They're kind of counteracting against each other. It's a divergence. So, I'm sorry, I don't remember the quote exactly, but basically, these 2 points are competing against each other and divergent from each other, and there's going to be a point where the whole system collapses and resets, because that's how divergence works.
Yes.
And so in a way you can say
it's a law of economics.
It's a law of nature, and in a way it's just proven that what the trail we're on now is doomed to failure.
Yes.
And so that's how agorist and anarchist principles can be proven right through blockchain.
Let me ask you a question. How can lawlessness compete against lawlessness? How can an anarchist society, how can anarchy compete against the lawlessness of anarchy, compete against the lawlessness of authoritarian tyranny and statism?
Oh, so let me ask you with another question to try to answer this. Is adhering to an immoral law, isn't that also a wrong?
Adhering to an immoral law?
Yes.
That's why I'm saying
immoral law.
Yeah.
So the anarchist is saying, I don't want to obey an immoral law. I'd rather participate in civil disobedience. I'd rather participate in counter economics to lower the strength.
But humans crave humans. It's in our innate nature. We crave a certain structure and a certain authority that needs to be structured in order. And to take the anarchist route, I mean, you can disagree with what is immoral. That is what statism is. It's lawlessness in itself, where it expands upon the law of man that goes outside the bounds of what is truly moral and objective truths. And so I can agree with that. An anarchist can disagree with what the state is presenting as an immorality within its regulatory output of its subjective, its relative means of law, and it that expands into lawlessness in its own right. But what happens when the anarchist blocks together and provides itself into another form of immoral lawlessness? Because I will say
you're making an assumption there that anarchists don't have principles and the anarchists are immoral. Let me flip it and ask.
I mean, an individual can't have their own morals, but when you focus too much on radical autonomy of the self, you tend to forge into a collectivist identity. And that's one reason why Lenin in itself, he praised the anarchists, because he praised them because they were the useful idiots.
Two different types. Let me ask you this. Do you believe in free association, Zach?
Freedom of association from what? Just being a human being? Interacting?
Just being
we do
a
that
human
all the time.
being. Do you believe in free association? Of course you do.
We have our
you believe that I should be able to associate with fellow Catholics, or I should be able to associate with fellow individuals that are like mine. I have a freedom to associate with individuals who agree with me politically. Well, anarchists have that belief too in free association. And I should be able to be free to associate with other anarchists who also believe in the non-aggression principle and who also, believe in property rights, that the individual, it's their property, and I shouldn't, transgress against their property, and they won't transgress against mine. And we have we have the freedom to associate with like individuals, where the government says, no, you must adhere to these immoral laws. And the anarchist also says, just like you said, that the government is really a cartel mafia regime that some people think or believe is a government by the people for the people with its problems, but government for the people by the people, where the anarchist says that government does not scale, or many anarchists don't. The anarchist says that I, as an individual, have a right to free associate with like-minded individuals who often happen to be agorist or, anarchist, while we might have a different belief morally in gay marriage or of something of that nature, but politically we might also agree that you have the right to do what you want to do in your bedroom, so long as you're not, hurting or harming another individual, and that it's consensual. Where I might say, I don't believe in gay marriage or of that nature, but I recognize it's like in freedom of speech. And so
that's a bad example.
Yeah, free.
I wish we could. Yeah. I wish we could use the homosexual situation and be like, oh well, whatever you do in your bedroom and in your house, I mean, I don't care. But at the same time, it's like most of the homosexual debauchery ends up coming out into the public because they can't. They have to alert. That's the reason why, that's the reason why society collapses when you start seeing, and culture deteriorates when you start seeing a high influx of homosexual behavior and pederasty and all this out in the open. It's because they can't contain it just inside their own realm. It's a sin, don't be wrong, and by all means, whatever, that's between you and God. But at the same time, I can't support you even staying in your own realm, because you're never going to keep it in your own realm. You're always
going to choose not to interact with those individuals, and that's perfectly fine. And and your church
not to say
may not agree with those sexual practices or preferences either, or they may not, and you will have the free association to converse, worship with them and not with them. And so
it's the same thing with adultery, with fornication and all that. Not just adultery. Adultery is not just cheating on your wife, everybody. It's literally fornicating and going about your sexual pleasure way. I mean, it doesn't stay private. It always comes out into the open. That's why we see all these young girls dressed like little prostitutes now. It's sad.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. And that society has allowed that to creep into all of the ugliness, all that ugliness and debauchery. I agree. Maybe that's because I grew up in a much more conservative household and a much more conservative lifestyle, and have, even though I'm an agorist and even though I'm agnostic, I still have those principles, those first principles that I think are rooted deep within me. So
I think we got what to get on topic. That's the thing, the difference between what conservatism really is compared to the liberalism that came out of the Enlightenment and expanded, because the conservative of today is the liberal of yesterday. So liberalism keeps evolving, or I should say devolving. As liberalism evolves, society devolves, because liberalism is just a reactionary movement to the liberalism of yesterday. So the conservative aspect is society needs some form of structure, and we all must agree upon.
I don't think it scales
within the morality.
Society needs structure. I don't think it scales. That's the issue. And that's where I said anarchist doesn't believe that government scales. And so
I'd like to respond to the question.
Yeah,
I do.
Go ahead.
One last point. The society doesn't scale because we live in a fallen world. Go on, Andrew.
Could you pull up the question just so I can reference it and just look at it and stuff? I guess you could say, really all this is about a response to fear, and there's different ways of looking at fear. So, some people, it's their understanding that we need, an ordered society. We need a king. We need
ordered liberty.
Ordered liberty. Yeah. Other people say we need law, and a structure that's not involved. It's kind of a blend between a king and law, like they have in Europe and England and Japan. Well, there's still kind of a monarchy, but there's like a middle ground with the law. And then you have places like, generally speaking, the West, like America, where, we campaign and it's about reframing the situation. So that kind of falls into three camps. Like said the king, the law. There's a lot. There's in a system like that, you find yourself vulnerable to situations like cults. The way that the law works, and it kind of blends with our society, is that, and it even like the Soviet Union, it's a cult of personality, and then it places like like Mexico and France and Ireland, it's all about reframing it. So at some point in countries like that, you kind of get boxed into a corner and you don't have anywhere to go, and that's where kind of an explosive ecosystem. When you don't have competition in speech, you have competition in political violence. You don't want that, but that's kind of how the system and that particular perspective devolves into. You can see this, like I said, Ireland. I think it was the Republicans or Irish Republican Guard. I can't remember exactly what the political faction that was back in the 80s and the 90s. That's all over the news. So it's all about answering a particular style of fear, and there's no universal answer because the fear isn't universal. It's everyone has a different style of fear. So that's why we had to keep that in mind when we're talking about building a legal structure, is that there's a bias behind that legal structure that isn't universal, and we have to take that into account when we're trying to solve things peacefully.
Right. I'm gonna from a blockchain perspective, I would answer this question in that blockchain enables gray and black markets. It enables agorists such as myself to voluntarily invest in alternative networks, parallel systems. Example, mesh communications. Example is other decentralization, going to the farmer's market and purchasing my goods that I can from there, from other like-minded individuals, rather than being coerced from a centralized system or governance, which isn't really a government. Like I said, it's a cartel mafia regime, in my opinion. And I don't have a voice, and they don't adhere to my will. They're not working for my best interest. And I think most of us would probably agree with that. I can stop feeding that beast even at the micro level. I've already voted with my feet. I moved from California to Texas. That's another way. You can vote with your wallet every day. The seasonal ballot box voting doesn't work. It's not going to dig us out of this hole that we find ourselves in. And I say that, like I said, I don't speak for all anarchists either or agorists, but I believe that government does not scale. And society in itself, because of that government, that central power like it is, that's so intrusive in our lives as individuals, telling us what we can or can't do, that we must, I don't think Washington or Jefferson or Franklin would like, wait a minute, you need a license to fish? Oh, what? Oh, you mean the crown or the government, the president says, or the state governor says you need a license to hold a pistol under your coat? Oh, wait, you need a license to be a barber and to cut hair? You need a license to farm? You need a license to sell your farm animals? It hasn't scaled. It's gone far, far beyond what they even believed. And it just shows that the experiment of a constitutional republic on a piece of paper is pointless.
Well, I think that's the issue, right? Like we just celebrated 250 years of
I
America
didn't.
since the Declaration of Independence. What
I
does that really mean, right? I'd rather celebrate the 1783 Treaty of Paris actually, because it literally says it actually presents the Holy Trinity in there. Yeah, so we are a Christian nation to some capacity, um, but it all comes down to like what is a right? Well, I mean, I will argue, and I honestly think that I am right on an anthropological and metaphysical aspect. All rights that you present that are presented in your little constitution, none of they're not rights. They're positive. They're all positive law when enacted against the natural order of divine objection in truth ends up fixating towards a centrality where what you thought you had as rights aren't actually rights, because you have to enforce those rights. And how do you enforce them? You enforce it on the other guy to ensure that he has no rights so that you get your rights. And that's why we're in this conundrum, in my opinion. The fact is if we were, and this is why society really doesn't scale very well, and thus government, and why it should be more on a smaller level and community oriented while we're on this earth as sojourners,
intentional
into what
communities,
yeah
segregation.
Is the fact is you have two wills. These are your natural rights. You have a will to instruct your will to parallel your will with that of God's will, your creator's will, and or you can deviate from your creator and you can go off and do your own thing, and your will reflects your own will and your own selfish venture into life for how you see fit. And that's the issue is when we're focusing too highly on the rights apparatus within this positive or this man-made law, that takes away from natural order and of all things, we get away from the aspect of dignity. So we need to start thinking like, you don't have, let's like, to use an example, you don't have a right to life, but your life is a gift. So life should be presented as dignity.
Yes, the sanctity of life.
So the sanctity of life is very real. The dignity of human beings are very real, but you yourself don't actually have a right to life. Why? Because God is the arbiter of creation and destruction, of life and death, and he granted you life. And so if you are to die tomorrow, then you are to die tomorrow. You could die in your sleep, natural causes, or you could, or there could be somebody that comes and shoots you in the face. That's just how you die. That's just how
accident,
there's
whatever,
a car accident. Exactly. So the sanctity within the dignity of human life, or all life for that matter, is to acknowledge that we all are limited in our capacity on this earth, and that we should be protecting ourselves and in this creation and stewarding, so that we make we make our society and our earth beneficial towards our next generation, and teach them the same thing, to be true stewards of this earth. And that's where blockchain actually reflects.
And that's where the circle right around to that point of where blockchain can help facilitate transactions between like-minded individuals who have a belief or a respect for one another's property, right? Respect for one another's life. Understand that there's a sanctity in life. There's a sanctity to life, in life and to life. And I think that's where it comes back to, like I said, the principle of free association, the principle of non-aggression principle, the principle of being able to defend myself and defend my property, not transgressing against somebody else, the golden rule, if you will. I think all of that can I can live amongst those individuals. I find it harder and harder and more difficult every passing day to live among individuals who bow down to these laws. Sorry, I got a big jet going over me. I hope you can hear
it's all right.
Bow down, and military jet, of course. Of course, bow down to the government, this quote unquote government, which I don't call it really government. I call it a cartel, a mafia.
It's a cult. It's a cult. It's always going to cult. It's always going to be a cult.
Yes,
and that's what you're talking about is reframing the cult so that it better benefits you. And there's nothing wrong with being self-interested in your own protection and the protection of the people that you love and care about. Right. And that's where the correction comes. There's always a correction. Is divergence.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck. They force you into a cult because it serves them.
Right.
It serves their fear. Not yours, theirs. The people who are interested in law and order.
Yeah. And I have an interest in law and order, if you will, but it's the law and order that whom I free associate with, not from this centralized power down. And centralized power, I mean, I'm including state government. You know, they are so corrupt. You think the federal government is corrupt? Well, the state governments are just as corrupt. You know, they just don't have the armies and the weapons and the money printers.
The thing is it, you know, there's a lot of internet chatter on the alt-right or whatever you want to call it, the right wing of the internet about, you know, we need to bring back monarchies and all this. And it's like on 4chan and different discussion boards. If you're going to have a kingdom,
maybe
if you're going to have a kingdom,
not saying I agree with them, but
you have to be conscious about the people who are going to be at the top.
Right.
You can't have somebody who is going to wreck the kingdom for their own selfish interest, because that's how they're wired as a person, and expect that there's not going to be a consequence of that down the road. A kingdom, you have to have an actual king in a kingdom, but he has no power to influence the economy below him. He's a representative who advocates on their behalf.
They think of two forms. One, that the king is going to do what's beneficial to the kingdom, so that either A, he remains in power, he or she remains in power, as well as their offspring, right? So they're going to do what's best for the kingdom. So you hope, or so you think. And
they're not wrong.
The corruption of power and that is going to be somehow, you know, there'll be a benevolent king.
Yeah.
So all it is looking at our current situation and hoping for something different that's better, and trading a president for a king, and projecting a different form of governance that they think would be better served and that will scale. But I would argue even a monarch with the best intentions won't scale. It goes right back to what Zach's saying. It goes back to first principles of the individual.
Yeah.
And the first principles of that individual and who they associate with. And that expansion of individuals of like minds who free associate only can expand so far before you then get into these gray areas. Well, you know, I don't believe in gay marriage, but everything else he or she does, I agree with. So let's go ahead and let them in. And then they let their friends in and their family in. And before you know it, it has scaled beyond the original first principles that you were free associating with.
Well, that's the practice. Is this what they did in the Soviet Union? Is whenever there was an actual, you know, objective, you know, response to the political actions of the people at the top, they would bring in people from external parties, and they would dilute the message so that they could maintain their grip of power. And that's all. You see this in the United States, all this immigration and stuff like that. You dilute the message so that you can maintain your grip of control. It's relative. It's always political. Power is relative to the people who are in control, because they're not the one who had to answer for the consequences. It's other people.
Yeah.
They get to be at the top. They have to be the prestigious class.
I have a personal experience. I used to buy my microgreens at the farmer's market from an individual who is a Gnostic in his belief, A, and B, was a former Zionist Jew. Ironic. But irregardless of how he perceived the world or his beliefs, we agreed on a price and a means of exchange on what we were going to exchange, so that I could have his microgreens, which were probably the best that I could find anywhere. And so I agreed to free associate with this individual and transact not in dollars, but in something else. And we got along great and had wonderful, meaningful conversations while transacting, and him providing what he could grow and I could provide what I wanted, or we would agree on a price. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he would be in my, shall we say, commune of an intentional community. It can extend beyond that, but I think that's where it's all going. We're going to eventually going to segregate ourselves into smaller groups. And like it or not, who knows? We could get a solar CME, coronal mass ejection of plasma that wipes out our grid. We're back into the Bronze Age, and we're forced into free association. And there are going to be groups of pockets of people who are going to look and want to put a king in power and have a kingdom, and go back towards the feudal lords. And there'll be others that'll say, no, I want more of agorist, more anarchy, shall we say. Anarchy just means no rulers. It doesn't mean that it's lawlessness. Completely different. They have first principles. Some do, some don't. Some anarchists side with communism, and central powers and limited free speech or whatever. Some,
And some are ANCAPs, which are retarded, that live in basements. I mean, what do you want? You want a public cartel of mafioso government, or do you want a cartel of fucking insurance companies? Congratulations, you got yourself a government, you fucking retards.
Wow, this has been a really, really fun and fascinating discussion. I kind of thought that last question would fire off something. We didn't even touch on current events. We got like 1 minute, 2 minutes for that. Is anything really, really pressing at current events you want to talk about?
I mean, they're back at the war in the Middle East again.
I don't think it ever ended.
SSPX coin is going to be up and running soon, everybody.
All right.
I'm gonna cash out on this cow.
Do your own research, people. Do your own research. Oh, good stuff.
And God bless all those parishioners that do go to SSPX. My prayers are all with you. So
I know I may have offended most when I said I didn't celebrate the 4th of July and the 250-year celebration. Very, very quickly. I remember as a kid being 12 years old and the Freedom Train in 1776, and celebrating 200 years in 1976. That's what I remember. I remember how the nation was captivated by that 200-year spirit. And it was nothing like that at the 250-year mark. But maybe it's because I free associate with different people now than I did back then, right? But it's because of the distrust in the institution, and it's the distrust in America as a government, and not being able to separate, the beautiful mountains and ocean and accomplishments of the individual, and we combine that with government, and we have such bad feelings.
Yeah.
I think that's why I
did a little bit
celebrate it, because I look at it as a cartel now. I don't see it as a government anymore.
I didn't really celebrate it. I went to a get together with a friend of mine, invited me to his sister's farm. They got a bison farm. So all we did was we fished, and we on their big pond, and just hung out and enjoyed life. And then we got a free fireworks show out on a farm from all the other farms that were lighting off fireworks. So we didn't have our own fireworks. We just go out to the front end of their drive, where their driveway begins, and just watch a bunch of fireworks from like 3 different properties. It's awesome.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. The fireworks thing is something that's extremely harmful in my home, because it brings back my wife's PTSD from Iraq.
Oh yeah.
And so she's takes some kind of sleeping pill, and then puts on headphones to try to noise cancel everything, and crank it up, and hopes that she can fall asleep and not hear it. So it's always a traumatic thing for her come January 1st or July 4th, because of fireworks. Thank you, Uncle Sam, for all that.
Well, I got lucky enough. I got to go to Wendy's, and then I had to go to work. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Chasing those dollars. Andrew, thank you so much for doing that.
Right.
And paying your fair share, so that we can rob kids in Gaza.
Did you at least jump into the ocean? Did you go swimming? In the harbor?
Where I work, there's like crocodiles and shit. I'm not gonna jump in there.
Alligators or crocodiles?
Have you? What do you? Who cares?
Is there a difference?
Be a Florida man in South Carolina. Damn it.
Yeah, right.
Is it a difference?
Before securing the guard himself.
Crocodile. There's a big difference.
Yeah, I realize.
I'm sorry, Andrew. Oh my!
It's all right.
Well, everybody, I think this should wrap it up here. We've got to finish this at the 2-minute mark. Very quickly, Andrew, where can we follow you? What's new in your world? Check
us out. We've been on hiatus. We're working towards getting back into YouTube and everything, so give us a little while. But you can check us out here on the World Blockchain Roundtable every Thursday.
All right.
Cool. When do you want to do it again?
You guys can discuss that offline.
It's set up.
Zach, what's new with you?
See that link right there?
Yes.
Check it out. I got some articles right there. If you want to dive into some theology, some anthropologic theological reflection into the metaphysical, but the biblical, just reflection in general. But reflection, theology, some Bible study, and just life in general, just reflecting on yourself, meditation. So if you enjoy stuff like that, head to that link that's underneath my name right there, and give my content a check out.
All right. Thank you. Well, everybody, make sure you give a like and subscribe wherever you're watching this. We appreciate it. And next week's show is AI agents on blockchain, the rise of autonomous on-chain economics or economies. Dun, dun, dun. Sounds like Terminator stuff. That ought to be a good one. So watch next week's show. That's where you can find me, right here in World Blockchain Roundtable. Again, thank you everybody for watching and learning about blockchain and financial freedom. Until next week, same time, same channel. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody.
America is not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.